Howdy everyone, the time is 9:35 p.m. on July 18th. It has been a long time since we've done a video. I've been busy, I've been out and about. I actually traveled to South Carolina where there were some pretty cool storms over the lake. I published some pictures of that over the lake. I'm thinking Great Lakes, over the Atlantic Ocean, and some pretty impressive lightning shots from there. I'm now back in the Great Lakes just in time for some more weather going on in the area, particularly in northern Michigan. And then on Wednesday, I'm looking at a pretty good potential, possibly, for some tornadoes in Ohio Wednesday afternoon. Now, again, I'm not really making a firm determination on that just yet because it looks like things could change with the latest models, so I want to make sure not to draw any certain conclusions just yet. Ooh, let me get this light on real quick. But we're going to get through that. We're going to talk through the models, take a look at what the SPC is saying regarding the whole issue. So we will get to that. Check out all our platforms. They all are listed for you there, particularly on YouTube. We are on YouTube the most. Obviously, that's where we are right now. So check all those different platforms. Bottom right-hand corner, scan the QR code. Make sure you get connected already. Let's get started because we have some stuff to get through. All right, this right here is the Storm Prediction Center's website, spc.noaa.gov. Most of you are probably familiar with this website, obviously, but today there was a slight risk for severe weather across the Upper Peninsula. I don't think it really amounted to too much going on in that area today, but there is potential for some of these remnant thunderstorms in the northern plains to move eastward into the Upper Peninsula region, and there's some storms developing in that area as of right now. So that is happening right now today, and going into tomorrow, that threat shifts a little bit southeastward. So Upper Peninsula, the entire Upper Peninsula, is in at least a marginal risk for severe weather, and then you have the extreme western portion in the western UP, and then northern Wisconsin as well is included in that. And then western Michigan, western lower Michigan is in a marginal risk area for severe thunderstorms today or tomorrow. This threat really does not look very significant. I'm actually not going to be chasing this, and it looks like it's going to be more of a nocturnal event as it crosses over Lake Michigan into the lower Michigan area, so I will not be going after these storms tomorrow. But some of the models previously were showing that it could be a bit of a bigger event, but it's not amounting to that based on the latest models, which is why I'm waiting to determine the next outlook for Ohio. I'm waiting to make a determination on how significant that threat is, but the tornado threat does look pretty strong according to the models, at least stronger than most projections that I've seen over the past summer. So we're going to look into the models right now, but this is a slight risk area for severe weather, and the potential for supercells will exist, and stronger storms are capable of a hail wind threat. That's what the SPC is saying, but overall it's looking like there is some tornado potential, and I want to look at the setup for that going on. So there might be some convective inhibition that might hinder that, but we're going to look into what the models have to say about that right about now. Let me go over here. Before we get to that, one thing I want to talk about before we get to the storms is the heat. All right, it is going to be hot over the next couple of days. So if we look at the latest models here, and we're getting into Tuesday now, it's going to heat up. This is the heat index. This is what it feels like. This is not the actual air temperature, but it is going to feel like the upper 80s and then lower 90s as you get into eastern Michigan. It's going to be kind of a hot one on Tuesday, but that's not really the brunt of the heat that is going to be taking place. Really, the brunt of the heat is going to come on Wednesday when we get that warmer, moist air mass into the area, and that's what's also going to drive those thunderstorms to develop across parts of Ohio on Wednesday. But I'm expecting it to be very hot in southern Indiana. So southern Indiana, you're going to see temperatures feels like temperatures in the lower 100s. So you're going to want to drink plenty of water during that day. Probably avoid outdoor work and strenuous activity outdoors. It's going to be a hot one. So, and that's what's going to drive those storms to develop later on in parts of Ohio, which we will want to take a look at in just a minute. Alright, so let's take a look at these models real quick. This is the GFS model. I was looking at it earlier just to get an idea of what the long range looks like. This is projecting the development of the storms on Wednesday in Ohio, packing a marginal tornado risk according to the sounding that is shown. There is not too much convective inhibition in the atmosphere, but there is a point to where the temperature gets warmer than the lapse rate, which kind of caps off any initial storm development potential that could exist with this. So that's why the SPC is saying, okay, we gotta be careful before we make any assumptions on how significant this threat is going to be. But it does look like there is a threat for severe weather on Wednesday. And then looking at the long range, I was looking at the long range earlier. There are potentials for some clusters of storms to develop in between the July 21st, July 25th range potentially. So we're going to have to watch that to see how that develops and what we could see from those storms. Right now the soundings do not really show anything terribly significant with the storm setup there, but it does show, yeah, this sounding's pretty wild, so it doesn't really look anything super significant. But I'll have to wait and see what comes out of that later on. Alright, HRRR model, so I want to get a more regional glance at what this looks like. This is what the HRRR projects for Tuesday. Let's get a forecast loop. This is the most recent model that has just come out. So I want to look at that real quick. See, this model really is not showing too much development of supercell of any thunderstorms Tuesday evening. Not really anything super strong, except maybe around the center of that area of low pressure you could see some thunderstorm development. Not really some high top thunderstorms, but some lower top thunderstorms. It looks like not really looking like the ideal setup for severe thunderstorms based on what the HRRR model is showing, but there's your severe hazard type alert there, watching for higher cloud bases associated with this line ahead of the main low pressure system. This low pressure system is also what's going to drive that threat in Ohio later on, but now you can see why that risk has gone down. It's not really showing a significant risk according to the soundings. So really the risk settles out when you're back in Wisconsin, when you have that daytime heating that can drive those storms as well. So I don't really think it's going to be anything too big tomorrow. Really the day I'm going to be more focused on is Wednesday for that tornado potential that might develop across parts of Ohio. I'm going to say might. It's not a definite just yet. Definitely according to the models, and the SPC also states that it's looking like there might be some inhibiting factors resulting in less of a chance. So the NAM3K, another idea of what's going to happen Tuesday morning, according to the HRRR, you got those storms moving in to the Western Upper Peninsula, packing some severe weather risks, and that's also outlined in their slight risk area for severe weather. That's going to quickly die out as it moves towards lower Michigan, but some redevelopment according to the NAM will be possible across parts of Wisconsin, and those will pack once again severe weather potential, even some tornado potential as well as that moves in. And it looks, this model is actually projecting that a little bit of rain might make it into lower Michigan on Wednesday night or Tuesday night. So it's going to be overnight, not really an event worth chasing, but it is going to kind of be some pop-up thunderstorms overnight, a lower chance of that. Other models are disagreeing and saying it's not really too much of a chance of storms. Now Wednesday's the day I want to watch, because watch what happens in the afternoon. You get this development of this line of thunderstorms, and in fact this model is actually projecting it to be a little bit farther westward, which is interesting to note because I didn't see that earlier. But you do see that tornado potential even in parts of lower Michigan according to the NAM3K model. So again, And the convective inhibition actually seems quite low according to the model sounding on the NAM3K. I'm actually going to want to pay attention to this because this is interesting. I didn't actually see this earlier, but really the threat does appear to be focused over Ohio, and the storms really have time to intensify. And it looks like parts of areas such as Van Wert, Defiance, Ohio, this region is under the gun for more robust tornado potential. No capping really in the atmosphere. Really lower cloud bases have developed. Got a sounding that has that curve that really indicates how a supercell is going to develop, how the clouds are going to lift in the atmosphere, and it's really showing that helicity. I want to do a freeze frame on this particular image real quick, so let's look at that. So here is more of a overview of what's going on in parts of Ohio on Wednesday at about 7 p.m. So Wednesday 7 p.m. these storms are expected to develop. Let's get a severe weather look at this. So you can really see that spin in the atmosphere that's put together. Those red arrows indicate the surface winds, and then blue mid-layer, black upper levels. In the upper levels you have westerlies, southwesterlies, and the mid-layer, and then southerlies at the surface, which really drive that spin in the atmospheres. And with Cape values of 2,000, that is enough to initiate thunderstorm development, which have the capability of producing all severe hazards and really showing some good updraft helicity once you get into northwestern Ohio, right along the toll road. In fact, this might be an event that I might have the potential to chase if it evolves in the way the NAM3K is playing out. Now I want to go to a regional graphic real quick because that gives us more severe weather stuff to work with. I want to look at the convective inhibition because convective inhibition just measures the potential, I guess, inhibiting factors that could play a role in hindering thunderstorm development, and it is lower over the northwestern part of Ohio than it is over central parts of Ohio. So it is still low overall, but there is some convective inhibition there that is something worth paying attention to. Cloud bases ahead of this are going to be quite low, so lower cloud bases, easier for tornadoes to develop with that setup. Surface-based Cape values, again, in the 2000s. I want to backtrack to when those initial storm development does begin. It really does show some storms developing in parts of eastern Michigan on Wednesday evening. I'm not sure how much severe potential those will have, but it does pack some interesting things to pay attention to with these storms. Yeah, there's not going to be much, there's no capping, the cap's broken, very low cloud bases, and yeah, it looks like a pretty good setup for severe weather currently based on the model charts. So we're going to want to pay attention to that. Supercell composite values are going to be quite high, up near 20, even in parts of northeastern Indiana. This could be a chaseable scenario if it amounts to what is being shown currently on the models. So significant tornado parameters elevated in about level 2 across parts of Berry County. I want to go to the time when the storms really seem to intensify. They actually seem lower as they get into northwestern Ohio. So there's still a lot of variables at play with this setup, but it does look like, according to the NAM3K, it's looking like it could be more of a setup for eastern Michigan. So something to pay close attention to as we get to that, as we get to the day. But I want to go to the reflectivity. This is again Wednesday 6 p.m. HRRR completely disagrees with the NAM3K and still shows that eastward trend of development of storms across northwestern Ohio. So with that disagreement, it is very easy to say that it looks like the threat could start to appear more of a Ohio target, still packing some tornado potential with broken cap. So there's multiple scenarios that can play out, but it does look like with the SPC's data that it is going to be more of an eastern Ohio threat, and this model does really show that setup. So again, several variables at play to work with here, but it's good to look at all the models and get an idea of all the different variabilities that still do exist. So just something to pay attention to. Wednesday is a day that could pack some pretty good potential across Ohio in particular. So pay close attention to that, and we'll keep you updated. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. Make sure to like if you liked, and subscribe, hit that bell, make sure you get all the weather information that you need right here, and also refer to all the official websites from the National Weather Service and the SBC for more official information. So stay tuned for more info, and I will see you all a little later.